So it's talked about the background, the historical background in the original, the bebop version. Okay. By the 50s, signs were pointing players off the chordal throughway into a new jazz style, modal. Modal, or its synonym scalar, literally means of scales. By this definition, all music, or any sonic system that follows a pattern with one central tonic note, is modal. Modal jazz, in a late 50s context, qualifies that denotation somewhat. Here's how Miles Davis explained it in 1958. He said, when Gil wrote the arrangement I Loves You Porgy, he only wrote a scale for me, no chords, and that gives you a lot more freedom and space to hear things. When you go this way, you can go on forever. You don't have to worry about changes, and you can do more with the melody line. It becomes a challenge to see how melodically inventive you can be. When you're based on chords, you know that at the end of 32 bars, the chords have run out, and there's nothing to do but repeat what you've just done, with variations. I think a movement in jazz is beginning away from the conventional string of chords. There'll be fewer chords, but infinite possibilities as to what to do with them. Classical composers, some of them, have been writing this way for years, but jazz musicians seldom have. And he says, a critic later says, there were two immediate effects and recognizable characteristics of late 50s modal jazz. The first was that, reflecting the aesthetic espoused by Davis and other modal pioneers at the time, it brought the tempos down to a slower, more deliberate pace. As a means of comparison, author Lewis Porter noted that in most jazz pieces, the chords and their associated scales would change about once a measure, but Davis's new music would stay on the same scale for as long as 16 measures at a time. Another writer recognizes that the structure of modal jazz elicited a welcome relaxation of tempo, further emphasizing the linear melodic aspect of the music. I think that was a happy development in jazz, as in Baroque music and the classical tradition. When you move into long melodic lines, there's a softness and slower speed that follows, because you're concentrating on what you're trying to say and not surrounding yourself with overwhelming sound. The second effect was that modal jazz compositions tended to extend the duration of solos. Loosed from the traditional 32 or 12 bar song structure, the soloist was free to invent and reinvent as long as necessary to tell the story. In theory, with no chords to define a melody, the solo became the song, and the improviser became the composer. The modal jazz soloist was indeed the master of the creative moment.